Whatever Israel wants, they make a phone call to America. America better do or else. Do you agree with that?
Do you know President Trump? You don't make him do anything. He does what he thinks is in America's interest, and he's very forceful about it.
Would the war and the Hamas attack have happened if President Trump was president instead of Biden?
Probably not, but it's hard to say with these maniacs. I think Iran would have been more careful.
I'm curious, did you know the president was going to be saying this?
We're going to take over that piece, and we're going to develop it, create thousands and thousands of jobs.
I'll bet you don't know this, Patrick. If America wants to come in and invest, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
So you would be okay if America takes over Gaza and it becomes something that we control. You'd be okay with that?
Yeah, but it's an American choice. Our victory will be your victory.
Why haven't you yet recognized the Armenian, Assyrian, and the Greek genocide that the Turkish did to that community? If you step foot in their country, they're supposed to arrest you. They're calling you a wartime criminal, the offenses you've done, they're calling it a genocide.
It's been a battle that has been going on for 3,500 years. So I'll have to do what we have to do. We'll fight with our fingernails if we have to. A lot of people felt in their gut, but they didn't have the guts to say it out loud.
I don't know if it's come from you, though. I don't know if it's come from the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay.
Here you go.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that.
I'm your host, Joel Perez, and you're watching Wrestling with Politics. And today we're going to be breaking down the recent interview that the host of the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet-David, just had with the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. And this interview, it was a crazy one. And Patrick Bet-David, he's receiving a lot of backlash for this interview, and he should be, because this was a disgusting interview. Patrick Bet-David, you should be completely ashamed of yourself after this interview, because Patrick Bet-David, he's somebody who wants to talk about the future looks bright. Well, after this interview with Benjamin Netanyahu, with a war criminal, let's be clear about exactly what Benjamin Netanyahu is. Those are exactly the right words to describe him. This man is a war criminal who's currently committing a genocide in Gaza. He's murdered over 40,000 children, or at least he's responsible for the death of those children. And Patrick Bet-David, he didn't ask Benjamin Netanyahu a single tough question. As a matter of fact, he allowed this war criminal to come on his platform and spew propaganda, spew lies for 45 minutes straight, with not a single bit of pushback. So Patrick Bet-David, shame on you, because you want to talk about the future looks bright. When I see an interview like this, the kind of future that I see, Patrick Bet-David, the kind of future that I see for our children is a future where our children are on the front lines of World War III after getting into some type of war that Israel started. That's the kind of future I see, Patrick Bet-David. So you got to stop doing bullshit like this, because people are tired of it. And he got called out for it in his own comment section, because this was completely despicable. Bibi Netanyahu lied literally about every single thing. And Patrick Bet-David sat there with a dumbfounded look on his face. As Benjamin Netanyahu, if you're going to interview this guy, you have to call him out for what it is. You have to at least bring up the facts about what's going on. And Patrick Bet-David didn't ask him a single question about the Gaza genocide. He asked him about the Armenian Assyrian genocide. And he asked Benjamin Netanyahu to condemn that genocide. And he barely even did that. He just said, yes, I think I just did condemn it. And Patrick Bet-David just took that as some type of answer. That's not an answer. He barely condemned the genocide, and you didn't even bring up the genocide that the dude's currently committing. So what's even going on here? What type of cushy interview is this? This completely soils Patrick Bet-David's reputation, if he had any. We already knew that he's in the Trump camp, but now we know that he's in the pocket of the Zionist lobby. So that's a completely disgraceful thing. We know who's paying Patrick Bet-David's paychecks. We know why Patrick Bet-David has the influence and the money that he has, because he knows what he has to say to get by in this political world. And that's just a complete shame, because Patrick Bet-David, he just completely sold out his morals. He completely took it up the ass, to be honest, for this interview, because Patrick Bet-David, you watch his show, it's usually four guys talking about the news. The four guys, they were gone. It was just Patrick Bet-David. He completely abandoned the format of his own show just to bend over backwards for Bibi Netanyahu. It doesn't get any more pathetic than this. And then when you go into the type of things that Benjamin Netanyahu is saying on this platform, completely lying about October 7th and everything that happened on that day. He literally called the Palestinian population of people who he's currently murdering and savaging. He's bombed schools. He's bombed every building in Gaza, and he calls these people savages. And he wants to talk about Hamas as if it's some type of terrorist organization, as if Israel wasn't the ones who funded Hamas and funded that terrorist organization so that they can go ahead and call Hamas, which is supposedly the government of Palestine, they can declare that an illegitimate government and go in there and do whatever they want with Palestine. That's why they call Hamas a terrorist organization. And by the way, you want to talk about terrorist organizations? Israel is a terrorist organization who's gone around the Middle East and started wars that America has to end up giving up the money and ending for them and resolving for them. We have to go in and resolve all of Israel's wars. And that's exactly gets into another lie that Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to spew here on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. Again, with zero pushback from Patrick Bet-David. He just sat there and listened the entire time. But Bibi Netanyahu was able to come on here and say that Israel's the one fighting wars for America. They're fighting the wars for us so that we don't have to fight the wars here at home.
And I think that people understand that because Israel is different. It really is. We know that we have to fight for ourselves, and we do. But when we fight for ourselves, we fight for you too. Because we fight Iran. Iran tried to murder President Trump not once, but twice. Iran killed and wounded thousands of Americans with their IEDs, explosive devices, in Iraq and Afghanistan. Iran killed 241 Marines in Beirut. They bomb your embassies. They burn American flags. They have mobs chanting, "Death to America, death to America." So when we fight Iran, we're not just fighting our war, we're fighting your war. But we are fighting that war here in the Middle East.
And that's such a despicable lie. That's such a despicable piece of propaganda, because when you allow Benjamin Netanyahu to go on your show and say something like that, you're allowing him to invoke the name of everybody in America, me, you, all us regular Americans who want nothing to do with this. All our names are being invoked here. And that's why when people say death to America, this is what they're talking about, because Bibi Netanyahu wants to go on these shows and say that he's fighting for you. He's fighting these wars for America. Well, guess what? These wars have nothing to do with us. Do not invoke my name on these wars. I want nothing to do with this. And you should want nothing to do with this either, because if you do invoke your name in these wars, it will be your children. And that's the point I'm trying to get across to Patrick Bet-David, to anybody watching here, is the fact that you want to invoke these wars, you want to talk about wars, and you want to get our country and put our taxpayer dollars into death and destruction. Well, your children could be the ones fighting on the front lines and facing that destruction when you're no longer here. So is that the kind of future that you want to cultivate? If you keep talking and listening to people like Bibi Netanyahu, that's exactly where we're going to end up. And the one interesting question that Patrick Bet-David did end up asking Benjamin Netanyahu, which was whether or not America's actually sold out to Israel, which of course it is. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu, he lied straight to Patrick Bet-David's face, and he said that it wasn't. And the example, this is one of the craziest parts of the interview. You have to go watch this part back, and I'm going to put the clip in this video.
To both sides make their argument. Well, you said, do you think President Trump is a type of a man that you can get anything you want and make him do what he wants? I don't think President Trump is. But I do think Biden and others are. So the whole criticism of the fact that Israel, whatever they want, they can call America and have favors being done, I would agree with you on Trump, but with Biden. So maybe a question that I don't think has been asked yet. Putin was asked 2 weeks ago if the war between Ukraine and Russia would have happened under Trump. He said, no, it wouldn't have happened. So for you, would the war and the Hamas attack have happened if President Trump was president instead of Biden?
I don't know. It's a good question, but you said something about Biden that I should just point out the facts. In fact, President Biden supported us in the beginning of the war after this horrific massacre, and he came here, and I very much appreciate it. But as the war progressed and the vilifications of Israel, the distortions on the media began to pile on, he began to take a different course. And when we were just 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way in Gaza, I said we have to go into that last position that they had where they had organized battalions. It's in a city called Rafah in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. And he said, don't go there. And he said, if you do go there, I'll smack an embargo on you. Now, you're fighting a seven-front war, and all of a sudden you're slapped with an embargo of weapons. That was tough. And I said to President Biden, who I've known for many years, I respect the fact you're the President of the United States, but I'm the Prime Minister of the one and only Jewish state, and we've been fighting to survive in our small place under the sun. It's been a battle that has been going on for 3,500 years. So I'll have to do what we have to do. And then a few days later, Tony Blinken, who was the Secretary of State, came to Israel, and he said, the President is serious about this embargo. And I said, Tony, I know it's serious because you stopped all the weapons. You slow-walked them before, but now you've stopped them. And then I said to him this. He said, well, how are you going to do it then? I said, Tony, we'll fight with our fingernails if we have to, but we're not going to leave. It's like the Allies would leave a quarter of the German battalions in place and not go into Berlin. And I said, would you take that? Would you take that, Patrick? Of course you wouldn't. So we didn't take it either. We did it against the opposition of the American president. So much for Israel controlling the United States. We don't.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the example that he gives for America not being sold out to Israel is that Joe Biden put a weapons pause on Israel from going to Rafah, and then Israel, they went ahead and they bombed Rafah anyway. So the one example that Benjamin Netanyahu gave for us not being completely controlled by Israel was that Joe Biden finally said no on one thing, and then Israel went ahead and did it anyway. So how the hell does that prove that we're not sold out to Israel? It's completely ridiculous. And again, another instance in this interview where Patrick Bet-David provided absolutely zero pushback. How do you allow this guy to come on your platform and say things like this? And it's like you're not paying attention. You're not listening to anything the guy is saying. His example completely contradicts everything and proves that America is indeed sold out to Israel. The one time that Joe Biden said, no, please don't bomb this one place, Israel goes ahead and does it anyways. And did they receive any backlash from America? Did they receive any backlash from the United States for doing that? No, they received no type of backlash. They received no type of punishment. They can do whatever they want, no limits. And that's exactly what they've been doing. They've been committing a genocide in Gaza with zero limits. And the United States, they've done nothing to stop this. As a matter of fact, we've been funding it. And Patrick Bet-David, the only thing that he's worried about, the only thing that he was asking Benjamin Netanyahu was whether or not they have the money to continue the genocide, whether or not they have the money to fund this themselves. And Benjamin Netanyahu, he kind of admitted in that answer as well that Israel, no, they wouldn't have the money, they wouldn't have the weapons if we stopped sending them. So when Joe Biden stopped sending the weapons, Israel, they had to continue the destruction on their own. So it looks like Israel, no matter what, they're going to go out and pursue their genocidal goals. But it seems like, for the most part, we're the ones providing the weapons and providing the funding for them to carry out this genocide. So it's just completely crazy here. Patrick Bet-David, at the very least, got Benjamin Netanyahu to admit that. And I guess that's the purpose of this interview, because asking Benjamin Netanyahu a hard question, yeah, this isn't the place where you're going to get that. And I don't think we are ever going to see an interview where Benjamin Netanyahu actually gets asked a tough question and actually gets confronted about what he's doing in Gaza. If he came on this platform, that would definitely be the case. But would Benjamin Netanyahu ever come on this show? I don't think so, because that wouldn't go very well for Benjamin Netanyahu. But for now, that's all I've got to say about this interview with Patrick Bet-David and Benjamin Netanyahu. So if you didn't know that Patrick Bet-David was sold out, well, now you know. If you didn't know, well, you better call somebody. But for now, that's all I've got for you. And thank you so much for joining me for this video. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to check out our last video where I talked about why I was skeptical of Zoran Mamdani. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you guys next time.